Well, now we'd like to talk about a tune that was actually written by Charlie Chaplin. It's called Smile. It's been around for a long time. And with me to work through the tune is my friend, Lori Meacham. Hi, Lori.
How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing well, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have you on. Actually, before we dig in a little bit, I'd love to ask a little bit about your background. Now, you're currently in Nashville.
Yes, I am.
And tell me a little bit about what you're doing there. I know, but it's kind of an interesting story.
We've been there for 20 years, and I am the executive director of Nashville's first jazz school called Nashville Jazz Workshop.
That's so cool. So
And,
you're really
yeah.
just doing instruction on all instruments?
I am.
But kind of right down the vein of what we're talking about, trying
Exactly.
to expose people to the kind of this world of non-classical piano playing. Huh?
I do it every day.
That's great. Now this tune, pretty straight ahead tune. What, just
Yeah.
16 measures long, right? Now how'd you learn this tune, or when did you learn this tune? Is this a tune you play at gigs, or?
I've played this tune for a very long time. One of my piano favorite heroes would be Monty Alexander, and I heard him live doing this. Also Nat Cole, and this was a big hit for Nat, and
Right.
I just love playing the tune.
What years was it? Because sometimes it always shocks me. It's kind of a cool thing about some of these old tunes. 'Cause I think this tune was actually written maybe in the 30s or 40s,
Yes.
maybe. I mean, a long time
Very,
ago.
very old.
But then when Nat King Cole had a hit on it, it was probably what, the
In 50s or 60s.
50s or
yeah.
60s, you know. And now it's still happening. It's a neat thing that so many of these tunes,
Yeah.
the real good tunes, stay around. You
That's
know,
right,
and
that's right.
They can
never-
stand the test of time and keep doing it. Why don't we play just a couple
Okay.
measures so we can get the tune in our head, and then we'll kind of think about some things we want to talk about.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, if someone hasn't heard that before, and it was great, you were just doing the ultimate George Shearing,
Yes.
version of that, a great old player. Let's kind of dig right in there and
Okay.
take it, because I know for our viewers, there's always a big leap. Heck, for me, I'm not a very good player, and it's always a good leap for me to say, gosh, I know what the chord changes are in my lead sheet.
Yeah.
I know what the melody line. How in the dickens are you determining, all those heavy, thick voicings? How do you do that? So can you kind of break that down for us?
Sure. You take the melody line, which is the first chord we're going to start with is just an E flat 6 chord.
Okay.
So you voice it from the melody down, and then the melody on the bottom, and this is the shearing sound, and you follow it up. Just in different inversions.
So okay, now just play the melody by itself for me. I want to really get this in my ear. Okay, so then you were doing the melody in octaves.
In octaves.
Just that melody. And then filling in between the two octaves with chord tones.
Exactly. It's the same chord. It's an E flat chord, E flat 6 chord all the way through. Just inverted.
So you just keep taking those different tones and working
and just
your way
moving
through.
them around.
Well, there's some valid reason to sit and work on your inversions, I guess, huh?
It's very important.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
It's very, very important.
Yeah. Tip number one:
Tip
know your
number one,
inversions.
know your inversions
Yeah, if you're going to play
all the
like
time.
Shearing, you got to
That's
do
right.
that. There's an old joke that George Shearing used to get done with a gig, and they had to untie his fingers, right?
That's
he'd
right.
come out, he couldn't get his
Yep,
hands
yep,
apart,
yep,
right?
yep.
But that is such a signature style for
That is his style.
for that thing. Now, if you weren't going to do it in that style, let's just kind of play the A/B test game here.
Okay.
Play that just doing like a single note melody line with some chords in your left hand. If you're doing it just more like a jazz tune, you're going to be playing in a trio, like. And that's, it's always interesting. I think we like the idea that you can take the same lead sheet and turn it into these different feelings. And then back to the Shearing style, it's. Yeah. Now this brings up a great question. So how, if you're doing it that way, you're not really getting any bass played, how does that, like when George Shearing was doing those things, how did the rest of the group play around that?
Well, it was highly orchestrated. The guitar player would play the melody. On the bottom, he would be playing this note.
Okay.
The vibes player would be playing this note. So the sound was
All this condensed
yes.
thick. So we had guitar on the bottom, vibes on top.
And then
Shearing
George
playing all the,
playing both of those with the chords in between.
and the bass player going ahead and doing a normal bass thing.
Exactly. And that was what was called, that's so famous, called the Shearing sound.
I've never done that, but that's really that's a nugget for me. I never put that together. The vibes were on top and the guitar was on the bottom. Because you do hear that, and it was a thick.
It was a thick sound. It sounded like an orchestra.
Cool.
So.
Cool. And if you're not doing it that way, and you're really playing in more of a melody by itself, or you're getting ready to go improvise, on the melodic line where you're going to have to play the chords, how do you? I love asking guests this all the time because everyone has a little bit different twist on it. How do you normally approach the issue of I have two hands, but I've got to cover three things? I've got to do the bass part, I've got to do the harmony, and I've got to do the melody.
I think about a couple things. I think about bass line. I think like maybe some stride. And then having to comp as well, and then also just combining the whole thing into using the entire piano. Ultimately, that's what we have all these keys for.
Yeah,
we want to use that. So.
And by stride, you simply mean reaching down, hitting the bass note, and then jumping up and getting the chord.
Yeah, this.
Which obviously is that takes some skill. That's a harder thing to do.
That's a harder thing
That's
to
always
do.
a step up. We're always trying to find, little baby steps to get us there to do it. And by comping, you meant what? By comping?
Comping is just if you were just playing chords.
Right.
And they would be rhythmic.
Okay, so just doing a chord, just not holding it down for 4 beats.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is another one of those terms we throw them out all the time, make sure we all know what we're talking about. Now, if you work through this tune, if it's only a 16-measure tune, how do you approach the idea of, there's not a lot of variety, I guess, going through the melody. Talk to me a little bit about how you build tunes. I mean, just volume, just how you say, gosh, I got to turn this into a whole arrangement.
I would start very simple.
Okay.
And then I would start moving down like this, down the keyboard. So otherwise, I would probably start the shearing thing, and then the second time around, I might come back down in this area, and then by the time I finish, I'm hitting more of the.
More of a full orchestra, if you will.
Full orchestra at that point. Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had a guest talk about it like that. And that's a good way to think of it. To say, hey, I'm gonna expand the, I don't know if the right word, expand the options on the tune by expanding the range of the instrument.
Exactly.
Well, that's a very cool thing. Well, I'll tell you. Let's go ahead and hear you play this tune. Then I'd love to hear you just work through it.
Okay.
This is Laurie Meacham playing "Smile."
Okay.
That was great, Laurie. Their improvising is so lyrical. It's really beautiful.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.